The president gave a speech on anti-Semitism today to mark Jewish Holocaust Remembrance Day. Are there any plans for him to give similar remarks either about the plight of Palestinian civilians or about Islamophobia and anti-Arab statements and violence?
So just want to, obviously today was a very important day, and many presidents have spoken on the Hill on this day and delivered remarks about remembering the millions lost in the Holocaust and reaffirming our commitment as a nation never again. This is not the first president to have done so, and the president wanted to meet that moment. And what we have seen as well in the past several months, as you all know, is the rise of anti-Semitism here. And we have been very clear to call that out. That is hate speech. We're going to continue to do so. And, you know, you've heard the president address the war and address the suffering that we're seeing in Gaza. You've heard him address that many times. And this also speaks to how important the hostage deal is. We're seeing talks continue in Cairo. That is important. We're going to obviously support that process. We want to see that hostage deal so it could lead to a ceasefire, lead to that all-important humanitarian aid getting into Gaza, and let's not forget bringing home the hostages to their loved ones. So the president has spoken about what's happening in Gaza, has spoken about what we're seeing there, the dire humanitarian situation, and calling for Israel to reduce. Obviously, what we see, the civilians' lives the loss of civilians' lives is unacceptable.
But no plans for anything more formal.
So, look, the president has been speaking to this, has spoken to this many times. I also want to just flag that the Secretary of Education put out a letter, a Dear Colleague letter that went out to universities talking about Title VI and giving examples of anti-Semitism, but also was very clear about the hate that we have been seeing more broadly, anti-Semitism, anti-Israel, anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian. We have seen that across campuses, across the country, obviously, in communities, and laid out our deep concerns. And so that Dear Colleague letter went out today on the same day that the president delivered this really impactful speech on a dark moment in time. And so the president has spoken about the war in Gaza and the casualties that we have seen, and we'll continue to do so.
Question on the case of the Army Staff Sergeant Gordon Black, who was arrested on May 2nd in Russia. He was not there apparently on official travel, but I'm curious, what does the Commander-in-Chief make of yet another military service member going to a country he's been told not to visit?
So I know the Admiral spoke to this yesterday. What I also can confirm is that there are two separate cases of U.S. citizens being detained in Russia. The State Department is actively seeking consular access to both individuals, neither of whom were in Russia on behalf or in affiliation with the U.S. government. We take seriously our commitment to assist U.S. citizens abroad and provide all appropriate assistance. We iterate, and this is kind of to your question, we iterate our strong warnings about danger posed to U.S. citizens in Russia. We have been very clear about this. State Department has been very clear about this, and we will continue to say U.S. citizens residing or traveling in Russia should depart immediately. As stated in our travel advisory for Russia, and U.S. citizens should not travel to Russia at this time, period. And we're going to continue to be very, very clear about that. For any further details on those two cases, I would refer you to the State Department.
Why do Americans who don't heed those warnings warrant government assistance if they knowingly flout them?
Because it's the president's, he believes it's his responsibility when American is held hostage or wrongfully detained to get them home to their families. That is a commitment that he has made. At the same time, and I can't speak to these two cases right now. The State Department has to speak to them and where they are in their process, so I want to be really mindful about categorizing where they are. But the president is committed. It's committed to getting Americans home if they are being held hostage or if they are wrongfully detained. He believes that is his duty as Commander-in-Chief, as President, to do so.
Has he conveyed any concern to the Pentagon that this isn't a case of yet another service member walking into another country that has hostile relations with the United States? There was the one that went to North Korea. Now there's this guy.
Well, we've been clear about all U.S. citizens not going to Russia. We've been very, very clear. And there's as I stated, there's a travel advisory that came out from the State Department. So this is all citizens, all U.S. citizens. I don't, not going to get into private conversations from here, but obviously we are concerned, and the State Department is actively working this.
And one other